Wherever there's a pool, there's always a flirt. Whenever there is school, there'll always be homework. Whenever there's a beat, there's always a drum. Whenever there's fun, there's always Coca-Cola. Yeah. Always Coca-Cola.
The Colombian government says this man is the mastermind behind most of it. But until recently, it wasn't this kind of violence that created
In plain sight of his co-workers, shot him 10 times.
The world of Coca-Cola is a world full of lies, deception, immorality.
People make allegations like that, but it becomes very difficult to tie that down. If someone says something about you, there's got to be a chain of evidence which demonstrates it.
The Colombian government, multinationals like Coca-Cola, and the paramilitary death squads all have something in common. They don't want any social movement, particularly a strong labor or human rights movement that can challenge their authority, their brutality, or their profits.
First of all, how did the University of Montana's contract with Coca-Cola even start, and how long has it been in place?
Maybe 4 years now. I think it was signed by the Vice President for Administration and Finance as a result of an RFP that went out to vendors, and anybody who wanted to submit a bid could do so.
Wherever he has gone, he has created Coca-Cola contracts. I think it was up at the University of Maine, the University of Montana. There was another university he was at, but wherever Bob Duringer showed up, there were Coca-Cola contracts at that university.
Duringer has got a history.
He's really no longer allowed to meet with student groups.
That's good, in a way. I mean, in a way that's kind of bad, though, too, because you're not able to infiltrate what he's doing, you know? I mean, the guy, every university he's been to, he's gotten a contract with Coca-Cola.
They own, in many cases, the HMOs in the health system. They own the lottery system locally, the contraband of gasoline. Basically, they own everything.
Hace por ahí 10 años atrás que se puso esto muy duro, mucha violencia y todo el mundo trabajaba era con miedo. Bajaban 2, 3 trabajadores y los mataban y bueno, ustedes síganse, los dejaban ahí tirados.
Since 1990, 8 Coca-Cola factory workers have been murdered in Colombia. In 1996, Isidro Gil was murdered at a plant in Carepa. In 2002, Adolfo Muñera was also killed. Gil and Muñera were both members of the trade union Senalternal. Isidro Gil's former union members now live in hiding. One of them was on shift during the morning of his murder.
Oí que sonó un disparo en la puerta. Entonces yo inmediatamente freno la montacarga y miro hacia atrás. Y yo veo que el compañero Isidro va cayendo de espaldas. Y veo el paramilitar dándole candela. Cuando yo llego donde el compañero Isidro, ya él está muerto, porque el primer impacto se lo pegaron en toda la frente.
The story in Carepa didn't end with the death of Isidro Gil. The same night, the union's office was set on fire, and its leadership ordered to meet a paramilitary commander known as Caliche the next day in this local dance hall.
Hablando de sindicatos, dice Caliche, vamos a acabar con todo lo que sean sindicatos. Eso tiene que desaparecer por A o por B. Si no, vamos a la empresa y los reunimos a todos. Y hay que todos reunidos en el piso. Pero para no hacer estas cosas, nos reunimos el lunes. Para que todo el mundo renuncie. Si el que no quiera renunciar, no responde más. Los trabajadores ese mismo día, vía telefónica, me notifican de la situación y yo lo que le digo es que por encima de estar sindicalizados ellos tienen es que proteger su vida, que deben renunciar porque no le dejan otra opción. Si no llevan la carta de renuncia a las 4 de la tarde, los iban a asesinar.
Y a todo el mundo y les dijeron que tenían que renunciar, que le tenían que renunciar a ese sindicato. Les daban 24 horas. Eso fue todo.
Eso fue tipo 8 o 9 de la mañana. Y eso de las 5 o 6 de la tarde no había un sindicalista. Todo eso era, ahí me acuerdo como que ahora ayer parecía un comisariato. Todo estaba ahí la renuncia de los compañeros. Llegaron los otros, pagamos la onda y ya se acabó el sindicato.
The union's president, Javier Correa, received 50 resignation forms, all worded identically. With no more union members left and the entire leadership fled, the union at Carepa was no more. For the paramilitaries, it was mission accomplished. In the Miami court case, the union says it was a story foretold. Javier Correa claims that in weeks leading up to the killing, threats were made against its leadership in Carepa by the factory's manager. Correa was so concerned he wrote him a letter, a copy which Correa says was sent to the Coca-Cola's office in Colombia. In it, he claims, the workers have heard the managers say in public places that the paramilitaries have already been ordered to destroy the union. Coca-Cola, Correa says, never responded to his warning. The Colombian government says this man is the mastermind behind most of the killings. Carlos Castaño leads the United Self-Defense Group of Colombia, an ultra-right-wing paramilitary group. It has around 12,000 armed fighters and is listed by the United States as a terrorist organization. Castaño says most trade unionists are fronts for Colombia's other terrorist groups, the far-left guerrillas, but there's little, if any, evidence of such links.
The power of the paramilitaries has made justice all but impossible in Colombia. This is one reason Coca-Cola has been targeted by the union. The company can be sued outside the country, while the paramilitary is only subject to the Colombian courts.
It's very hard on a local level to build these cases.
Sanal Trinal sued Coca-Cola in a Miami district court, claiming that Coca-Cola hired, contracted with, or otherwise directed paramilitary forces to murder, torture, illegally detain, or otherwise silence trade union leaders. The case was brought before Judge Jose E. Martinez in 2001 and would prove to be very unfortunate, considering California Senator Dianne Feinstein pointed out that Judge Martinez has a bias in favor of corporations. He also specialized in advising and even defending them. Martinez is also an active sports radio broadcaster for the Miami Hurricanes. The Canes are heavily funded by Coca-Cola. Since the University of Miami contracts with Coca-Cola and Judge Martinez works on behalf of the university, and he has a history of intimacy with corporations, this logically tells us that Martinez has bias towards Coca-Cola. Martinez dismissed the Coca-Cola company from the lawsuit, deciding they didn't have significant ownership of their bottling plants in Colombia. Coke owns more than a third of stock in the Colombian bottling plants, and their corporate leaders in Atlanta also sit on their board. Even so, Martinez ruled that their bottling plant managers in Colombia weren't liable either. His decision was made in 2006 after he reviewed only a single document given to him by Coca-Cola.
The union is still active here, but claims Panamco intimidated and falsely imprisoned some of its leaders in an attempt to discredit the union. Luis Eduardo Garcia and Domingo Flores were accused by the company of planting 2 bombs in the factory and having links with left-wing guerrillas. They were arrested on terrorism charges and imprisoned for 6 months, awaiting trial.
Solamente el man que nos trasladó desde allá, aquí a la 25 me decía, ve gran hijo de puta, para andar metidos con el sindicato, ¿por qué no se salen de eso?
The case was thrown out before it came to court. No evidence of a bomb was ever found. In a Miami lawsuit, the union claims the men were deliberately set up. A Colombian prosecutor, who investigated the case at the time, himself questioned whether this was an action intended to harm the leadership of the union. Despite their ordeal, the union leaders still work at the plant, saying that if they leave, the company will have won. But their liberty has come at a price. While in jail, their salaries were suspended and they've received no compensation.
De ahí que no alcanzaba para pagar servicios públicos, mucho menos para pagar cuotas de la vivienda, el cual pues se fueron acumulando y ya no las tenían en remate cuando salimos nosotros. Frente a eso, las compañeras les tocó que salir a pedir limón. Mis hijos estaban estudiando, me tocó que no volvieran más al colegio porque no había con qué pagar y los echaron del colegio. A esos niños les quedó un trauma que aún todavía no hemos podido superarlo.
Ella ve a un policía, ve algo y de una vez piensa que lo van a llevar otra vez. O sea, a ella le quedó ese temor de que el papá no va a volver, de que el papá se va y de pronto no vuelve.
Last year, Luis was at a shop on his round when he says two armed paramilitaries confronted him.
Estando acá, el tipo que estaba a la derecha se me vino, desenfundó el arma, sacó el arma del bolso, la desenfundó, tendió el arma y me dijo, le llegó su momento, hoy es su día.
That day, Luis was lucky, saved by a shopkeeper who called the police. Both men say their request for a transfer to a safer route has been ignored by Penamco, putting their lives at even greater risk.
Asesinar a mi hija, que tenía 4 años de edad y que me la iban a devolver en una bolsa plástica.
Mendoza thinks he continues to be a target because of his public criticism of Coke, and because of an incident in 2003 where he spotted paramilitaries in the office of the local bottling plant. He says the paramilitary were taking cases of Coke to sell for fundraising. Mendoza believes the plant management had a deal with the paramilitaries. Coca-Cola for union busting.
A ver, nosotros vemos ingresar a la fábrica de Coca-Cola a los paramilitares cuando estamos trabajando. Ese mismo hombre que había entrado el 14 de marzo, que la empresa sabía que era paramilitar, vuelve y entra el 16 de marzo con el permiso de la empresa y vuelve y les da el producto.
Coca-Cola has run into intense scrutiny in India, too. They were forced to shut down a plant in India after they had been found guilty of depleting and contaminating the water supply.
Actually, the shareholders of Coca-Cola, that they should go ahead and implement the recommendations of a study that they commissioned and that they funded that came out in January 2008 that actually says that the Coca-Cola company must shut down one of its bottling plants in India, in Kaladera, in Rajasthan, in North India. And we're wondering what is taking them so long. And the reason the report stated that they should shut down the plant is because the report assessed the situation, the water situation in the area, and recognized very clearly that the Coca-Cola plant and its extraction of water is making worse significantly the already existing water crisis in the area. And in other words, the coexistence of the Coca-Cola bottling plant and the community and meeting their water needs it's just not sustainable. It's not going to work. And so I'm here to tell them to go ahead and implement the recommendation that their own report recommended. Unfortunately, we're running into a lot of spin by the Coca-Cola company, this so-called corporate social responsibility that they're talking about, which is really a response by corporations to deal with globalization. But it's disingenuous, some of the stuff that they come out with, and frankly, some of the stuff we've heard in media in terms of the response to the report by Coca-Cola is outright lies.
Even in Turkey, they have denied workers their right to unionize. During a protest in a Coca-Cola plant, union workers, their spouses, and their children were allowed to be tear-gassed, raided, and assaulted. Since the scandals, several universities have suspended their contracts with the Coca-Cola Company.
I know there have been lots of reports of things that happened in Colombia, as well as in India with regard to water.